Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you to Rob. Thank you not only for the very kind introduction, but also for your partnership throughout the pandemic. So many of the challenges that everyone faced all across the state of Illinois, we had Rob at the table helping us think through how we could solve some of those challenges. And as well, Mark organizing the manufacturers across our state to see if we could come up with our own PPE here in the state of Illinois and again solve some challenges that we all went through. Illinois did very, very well during the pandemic at addressing the challenges, the health challenges that people had, and indeed because of the work of Rob and Mark and so many of you, we saved lives and we kept people from needing to go to the hospital, and we kept those hospitals open during the pandemic, unlike many of the states around us and throughout the country. So thank you very much for all of your leadership in keeping Illinois healthy. Now I want to give you a round of applause. So I'm also really glad to have Mark and Rob and all of you as partners in our effort to grow the economy and to make Illinois an even more attractive place to do business. I'm very pleased to be here with the staff of IRMA and IMA who do interact on a regular basis with our staff, and we are solving problems together. You all represent two of the most important industries in our state, and we want to work with you going forward to make sure that we're getting rid of whatever barriers exist and of course increasing the economic opportunity for all of you, which increases the economic opportunity for everybody in our state. Just last month, I joined IMA at the Governor's Mansion. You heard that in Greg's remarks, to honor the innovation and dedication to craftsmanship that Illinois manufacturers represent, and to announce the winner of Maker's Madness. Now, the winner of that competition, I mean, this is cool. Rosenberg Moon Habitat. If you haven't heard of this or seen it, it's a living quarters for astronauts on the moon or on another planet that can be 3D printed on site. So they don't need to build it and then take it with them. They can build it there. That's pretty cool. And it'll soon be a reality because you're going to see more and more manned missions to space. And, you know, if you've wondered, you know, when man is really going to get back to the business of getting to the moon, getting to Mars, and really, you know, doing what I think John F. Kennedy dreamed of us doing, you're going to see it in the next few years, and Illinois is going to be very much a part of that endeavor. IMA's members employ 650,000 people who work on shop floors and production lines and tech centers to keep the state running and growing, driving one of the cornerstones of this state's economy. Our manufacturing industry has been a priority for me, so that I've worked with the legislature to get some things done that have, I think, made a real difference. We've passed incentives for electric vehicle OEMs and suppliers. We've created attractive new tax benefits for chip manufacturers. We've launched a closing fund to make Illinois one of the most attractive places in the country for companies that are outside of Illinois to come to. We've done other things, of course. You know, without the workers that you need to run your businesses, none of these businesses can succeed. None of you can succeed. So that we passed together, we worked on, Mark and I, apprenticeship tax credits. Thank you for your leadership on that front. Making sure that we're investing in community colleges and workforce development programs, and building advanced manufacturing academies, partnering with companies directly to create those training programs for EV manufacturing, for aviation mechanics, for welders, for so many other of the skilled jobs that you all are creating in your businesses. We want to make sure that we have the most talented and skilled workers in America. And I can tell you that when I'm on the phone with CEOs here in the state and also from around the country, That is the most important thing that people talk to me about. That is one of our greatest assets that we have talented workers. Yes, of course, people are talking to Mississippi about low-wage workers that they can get if they put a low-wage manufacturing facility in that state. But what they talk to Illinois about is skilled labor and skilled workers, because we provide those, and we have the third largest community college system in the entire nation. And we're utilizing that to make sure that we're at the top of the heap when it comes to skilled work. Just a few months ago, Illinois' economy passed $1 trillion in GDP. We're the 5th state in the nation to reach that milestone. It's a big deal. We're now 2nd in the nation for new corporate investment per capita. And that's in no small part because of the investments made by companies in this room. Take ADM, for example, who recently inked 2 new joint ventures with LG Chem to meet the growing demand for plant-based products. Or Caterpillar, which recently announced an expansion, adding a 180,000 square foot warehouse, their first new building in Decatur in 25 years. And then there's Rivian and Lion Electric and TCCI and Navistar and Borg Warner and all the leading companies in our state that are involved in the EV revolution. And in addition, because of our data center tax credits, which we passed in 2019, Illinois has become the 2nd largest state for new capital investments in data centers, creating 8,000 new jobs. We've had $4 billion of investment in the data center industry just since 2019, and already there are $4 billion of new data centers that are being built today. So that's $8 billion, 8,000 new jobs, and they're telling me in the data center industry that although we're number 2 in the country right now, Virginia being number 1, we're headed for number 1, and I'm excited about that. This is a state that's been host to the invention of the escalator and the cell phone and the zipper and the dishwasher, and we've never stopped at innovating. And with 18,000 manufacturers now employing over 650,000 residents, we're just getting started. Now, matching that drive, step by step, is the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, employing nearly 1 in 5 Illinoisans and providing a firm foundation for our booming economy and giving people their first jobs often. Very important for the development of our economy and the people of our state. And it's currently, the retail boom here is currently growing more than any other state in the Midwest. You never hear that about Illinois, do you? And it's important for us, I think, to hold up the achievements that we have, and one of them is just that. Working with IRMA, I signed the INFORM Act that's designed, as you know, that's the organized retail theft as a felony bill. It's also empowering law enforcement to find and stop criminals who have stolen millions of dollars worth of goods from Illinois businesses. And with the help of IRMA and IMA, we were able to pass historic legislation eliminating pandemic unemployment insurance debt. And you heard Mark talk about that. Not an easy endeavor. We had a lot of people at the table with a lot of views about where that money should come from and how long it should take us to get it done. But everybody drove it forward. I will say, in part led by my Deputy Governor, Andy Manar, and our team, but also working labor and business together at the table, legislators too, in order to make that happen. We protected workers' benefits, and we also saved Illinois businesses millions of dollars in potential taxes. This historic effort wouldn't have been possible without those leaders that I mentioned, and I really can't stress enough how grateful I am for the partnership in creating a bipartisan solution to a bipartisan problem. Over the last 4 years, Illinois has achieved a lot of milestones that together too often get overlooked, and I want to cite just a few of them for you. I know there's a lot of talk about, well, gee, the federal money that came into Illinois, that's really what took care of the budget challenges of the state. Not true. We took the federal money that came from ARPA, and we put almost all of it, if you look at it, at paying down debt in the state. Paying down debt in the state is a big deal. We actually paid down much more in debt than we got in ARPA dollars coming in. Now, yes, there was stimulus in the economy, and putting $1,400 in people's hands that they can go spend themselves brings in sales tax dollars for the state. But the reality is that we also did a lot of things that balanced our budget even before we got to that point. And we cut expenditures during the middle of the worst parts of the pandemic, the things that weren't going to affect people's health in a negative way, but we knew that we could cut back on in state government. We also brought in new revenue. We evened out the sales tax that was being charged for local businesses versus online businesses. That's a big deal. If you're a local merchant, and people are at home thinking I can save 6 or 7% on a purchase by buying online, the reality is we want people to walk into bricks and mortar stores, and we also want to make sure that the state gets its fair due on those online transactions. So that's one thing that we closed the loophole on in 2019 that brought in revenue to the state. Legalizing cannabis has brought in a couple of $100 million to the state and to local governments, and all of that together, we balanced the budget. We balanced the budget having nearly reached structural balance. When I came into office, $3.2 billion of a structural deficit. The idea that we are a hair's breadth away from structural balance is a big deal for our state, and it's paid off in the credit rating upgrades that we've received. 8 credit rating upgrades for Illinois, 8 credit rating upgrades. And although I'd like to celebrate just that, and it's a big deal, we had 8 credit downgrades during the previous administration before I took office. So we're just back to even now. We have a lot more to do. And so I hope you'll remind the legislators when you go talk to them about how important it is that we once again balance the budget, continue to pay off our debts, and so on. We've proposed a budget that is balanced, that does pay down debt, and I think we're going to be able to get that done. I just remind you that also when I came into office, there were more than $8 billion of overdue bills in the state. We were paying 12% interest on those overdue bills, 12. And now we have eliminated the overdue bills. All we have is accounts payable. We're paying bills within 16 days now. Anybody that's run a business like me knows that we're probably paying bills a little too fast. But we have a reputation to overcome in this regard, because it was all the way up at 200 plus days it took the state to pay bills. No one wants to wait that long to get paid, even if you're getting 12% interest on the loan to the state. The reality is that we are now in much better shape. We increased college scholarships for 26,000 more students. It's now free for those at or below median income to go to community college, and nearly all of our universities and community colleges have received credit upgrades, in part because the state's credit is so much better and because we are supporting our colleges and universities. And our small businesses, frankly, we've created more small businesses than ever before. No one pays attention to that fact, but it's a big deal. We're a state on the rise. Small businesses become big businesses, like many of you in the room here today, and so the more flowers that we can plant, the more flowers are going to bloom, and I'm really pleased about that. The members of IRMA and IMA employ and support working families across our great state, the men and women who get up every day and do the very hard work necessary to keep every part of our economy running, every supply chain, every grocery store, every factory, and none of our aspirations for our state can be realized unless your member companies are growing and prospering. And our job in the state capitol is to help you do that, and I'm very pleased to be your partner in that endeavor. So I want to thank all of you for the work that you do. Thanks for being here today. I don't know if I'm allowed to thank you for lobbying, but talking to your state representatives, your state senators, and to officials across the constitutional offices, it does make a difference. You're reminding
there to be a right to abortion as a constitutional amendment in 2024.
Well, obviously that's something the legislature is going to have to determine. I do think it's important for people to be able to weigh in on this subject, and of course we've guaranteed it in the Reproductive Health Act in Illinois, a woman's right to choose and reproductive rights. So we'll have to see what the legislature decides to do on it.
Governor, Ron DeSantis is coming to Central Illinois in a few weeks to give a speech at a Lincoln Day dinner. Do you have a message to him as he comes to visit the state?
Doesn't seem to be much for freedom, Ron DeSantis. Wants to take away people's right to read the books that they want to read, wants to, take away black history in our schools. Somebody who does not believe in a woman's right to make decisions for her own self about her own body. So maybe he could learn something when he's in Illinois what freedom looks like.
Yesterday, you spoke at an event in Washington. I have noticed that President Biden is coming to that same event. Did you get a chance to talk to him? And are you going to have a role in this campaign?
Well, I think you've seen that, I'm going to help President Biden win re-election and, of course, Vice President Harris as well. And I did get a chance to speak with the president. Yesterday I was actually at the White House briefly and talked to him with a number of other people that were together with us. But so I didn't see him at the event that you're referring to, but I heard he brought the House down and did a terrific job.
But a lot of people are not roaring for Biden. It's not like there's a groundswell of how exciting he is, and people are even talking about, I don't know, he might be 80 years old or something, I think I heard. So how's he gonna come through with those obstacles?
Wait, how old are you, and do you think that we ought to judge you by the number on your age?
I'm getting older every day.
There you go. Yes, you are, and yes, we all are. Look, I think President Biden has an awful lot to commend his re-election. Remember, he's rescued the economy. He's the person who kept the nation healthy by distributing vaccines all across this nation. He's the person who has genuinely the most empathy that I've seen in any president in my lifetime. He's somebody who cares about working families. I think he's got a lot to brag about, and I think the American people are going to be pleased when they see the contrast between a man who genuinely cares about them and whoever the Republicans put up, their leading candidates, one of them under indictment, the other one who clearly is attacking American families.
Governor, there's a bill going through the legislature now about crisis pregnancy centers and penalties proposed for such facilities that conjure up deceptive practices to people going there to seek an abortion or reproductive care. What would constitute as deceptive practices in a bill or something like that?
Well, this is obviously something being considered in the legislature. They're going to, send it to my desk if they pass it. What I can tell you is that we need to prevent the kind of fraud that we've seen by folks who are taking out retail establishment locations next to Planned Parenthood, next to clinics where people seek their reproductive rights, and then trying to convince them to go in a different door where they won't be offered reproductive rights, where actually they'll be dissuaded from exercising those and won't be allowed to get them. And so that's deception. That's improper. We want to protect women in this state, and that's why I think the bill probably has a good chance of getting passed and sent to me for signing, and I will sign it.
And then one more.
Governor, it seems like there's about an $800 million hole in the healthcare program for undocumented residents here in the state. I imagine there's a lot of things we want to do with $800 million. How would you propose filling that hole?
Well, let's be clear. We are going to pass a balanced budget. That is what I'm focused on. The legislature is working out the details of what it wants its priorities to be. I've put forward my priorities, and I think that generally speaking, the budget that I put forward is the one that we will pass, with obviously some changes here and there by the legislature. That's an issue that's going to have to be worked out by committees, by working groups. But what I know is that we are going to end up with a balanced budget no matter what.
Governor, a report recently came out from CTBA regarding changes to the state tax. Republicans at the same time, they're either in favor of a complete repeal or changing some of the exemptions. What's your position on the estate tax? Should there be any changes as far as exemptions?
Again, my priority is balancing the budget, making sure that we are continuing our march to credit upgrades and making sure we've set the real foundation for fiscal stability in our state.
Governor, a new bill was proposed.
All right, one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
A new bill emerged that would give the Bears some tax help for their new stadium project in Arlington Heights. Have you given that any review, and do you have any thoughts on potential help for the Bears as they make that move?
I have not given that bill any review, so start with that. And obviously, again, my number one consideration is keeping us on a firm fiscal footing. So that means that the state really shouldn't be in the business of, providing handouts to private industry, and that's what the Bears are in their endeavors. I'm rooting for the Bears. I'm also, Chicago, and I would love it if they stayed in Chicago, but it is their choice as a private business about where they're going to go. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.